Dust, blood, the rotors fading. Emily Carter pressed her hand against the wound, radio dying beside her. Somewhere above, the Black Hawk banked east, away from her position. She keyed the mic with trembling fingers. Viper 6, I'm still alive. I'm still... Through the static, she heard it. Her CO's voice, calm as Sunday morning. We're pulling out. She's gone. Mark her KIA. Not a mistake, a decision. 5 years later, Los Angeles. She watches him on CNN. Decorated, honored, free. The commentator calls him a hero. Emily sets down her coffee, opens the closet, pulls out the rifle case she swore she'd never touch again. This time, no one's coming to save him. The coffee shop in Van Nuys smelled like burnt espresso and broken promises. Emily Carter sat in the back corner, same table, same time, 0600 hours, though she tried not to think in military time anymore. Tried not to think in grid coordinates or threat assessments or the 100 other ways the Corps had rewired her brain. She failed most mornings. The barista knew her order. Grande dark roast, black, no room. He didn't know her name, and she preferred it that way. Anonymity was a kind of armor. She'd worn the other kind for 6 years, and it hadn't saved her when it mattered. Her phone buzzed. Email notification. She ignored it. Probably another message from the VA about her missed appointments, or the community college asking why she dropped Professor Henley's Intro to Nursing class 3 weeks in. She'd been good at trauma medicine once. Real good. Could stabilize a sucking chest wound with one hand while calling for medevac with the other. Now she couldn't handle the sight of teaching mannequins without her hands shaking. Mind if I sit? Emily looked up. The man standing beside her table was old, 60, maybe older, with silver hair cut high and tight, the kind of fade you only saw on lifers. He wore khakis and a polo shirt, but his posture gave him away. Spine straight, shoulders back, eyes that swept the room in quarter-second intervals. It's L.A., Emily said. Plenty of empty tables. I'm here for you, Corporal Carter. Her coffee went cold in her hand. Nobody had called her that in 5 years. Not since the medical discharge. Not since the VA psych eval that labeled her unfit for continued service. Not since she'd walked out of Pendleton with a duffel bag and a prescription for Zoloft that she never filled. I don't know you, she said. Jack Rourke, warrant officer, retired. I knew your father. That made her look at him properly. Her dad had been force recon, killed in Fallujah when she was 16. She joined the Corps partly to understand him, partly to prove she was strong enough to finish what he'd started. My father's been dead 20 years, Emily said. I know. I was there. Rourke pulled out the chair across from her without waiting for permission. I was also there when they left you behind in Haditha Province. The coffee shop tilted. Emily gripped the table edge, anchoring herself to something solid. Haditha, the word she couldn't say out loud, not to the VA shrinks, not to the civilian friends who asked what she'd done overseas, not to herself at 3 in the morning when the nightmares came. You need to leave, she said. 5 years ago, Forward Operating Base Griffin. You were attached to 3rd Battalion, Medical Detachment. Insurgent assault overran the perimeter. Evac birds came in hot, grabbed everyone they could carry. Rourke's voice was flat, factual, the way officers delivered after-action reports. You were providing aid to a wounded Marine when the CO called the withdrawal. You stayed with your patient. The bird left without you. I said leave. Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Hale gave that order. Rourke slid a photograph across the table. Recent, high resolution. A man in an expensive suit shaking hands with a senator, American flag backdrop. The kind of photo that ended up in defense contractor press releases. The man was older than Emily remembered, grayer, but she knew his face the way you know scars. He's up for Assistant Secretary of Defense now. Big ceremony next month. Emily stared at the photo. In it, Hale was smiling. The same smile he'd worn when he pinned her Navy Achievement Medal after the Ramadi mission. The same smile she'd trusted when he said, "You're the best damn medic in this battalion, Carter." "I don't care," she said, but her voice cracked. "You should." Rourke pulled out a second item, a thumb drive, small and black. Because it wasn't an accident. Emily didn't invite Rourke to her apartment, but he followed her there anyway. She lived in a studio in Reseda, rent-controlled, third floor, bars in the windows. The building smelled like weed and microwave food. Her neighbors played mariachi music until 2 a.m. most nights. She didn't complain. The noise helped cover the sound of her pacing. Inside, the place was military clean. Bed made, hospital corners. Dishes washed, drying on a rack. Nothing on the walls except a framed photo of her father in dress blues. Rourke took it in with a quick glance, the way you cleared a room. "You live like you're still deployed," he said, "and you walk like you're still hunting." Emily locked the door, threw the deadbolt. "What's on the drive?" "Insurance, the kind that ends careers." Rourke moved to her window, checked the street below. Old habits. "But before I show you, you need to understand. Once you see this, you can't unsee it. You'll have a choice to make." "I chose 5 years ago. I chose to stay with my patient." PFC Daniel Ortiz, 19 years old, shrapnel in his femoral artery. "You kept pressure on the wound for 40 minutes while the firefight raged. Saved his life." Rourke turned from the window. "Hale knew you were still on the ground. He had eyes on your position. He called the bird off anyway." Emily's living room had exactly one chair and a card table she used for meals. She sat, feeling her knees give out. The after-action said it was confusion, smoke, chaos, breakdown in communication. The after-action was written by Hale's XO. Rourke pulled out a laptop, plugged in the drive. "A captain who's now a major, working for the same defense contractor that hired Hale after his retirement. Funny how that works." The laptop screen glowed blue, then resolved into video footage. Drone feed. Thermal imaging. Emily recognized the layout immediately. FOB Griffin. Outer perimeter. The rubble-strewn courtyard where they'd set up the casualty collection point. "This is classified," she said. "I know, I stole it." On screen, white-hot figures moved in jerky patterns. The timestamp read 1847 hours, exactly when the evac had gone to hell. Rourke clicked a tab, brought up audio. "Viper 6, this is Overwatch. I have eyes on one friendly, northwest corner, still in contact." "Copy, Overwatch. Birds at capacity, we're pulling out." "Sir, the medic is still—" "I know who it is, Overwatch. Mark her position for follow-on extract." Emily's breath stopped. That voice, Hale's voice, calm, measured, making a decision. "Sir, we can make room, we can—" "Negative. Mission priority is the personnel already loaded." She knew the risks. The video continued, the Black Hawk lifting off, rotors churning dust. Emily's thermal signature, small, solitary, hunched over another body, growing smaller as the drone climbed for altitude. Then nothing. Just empty desert and the fading heat signatures of the insurgents melting back into the city. Rourke stopped the playback. There was no follow-on extract. By the time a quick reaction force reached your position 3 hours later, you'd already been picked up by a local militia. Friendly, as it turned out. They drove you to a Marine checkpoint 15 clicks east. You were hypothermic, dehydrated, and in shock. "I remember," Emily whispered. "Ortiz lived, got sent stateside, medical discharge, full benefits. Last I heard he's married, 2 kids, works at a Home Depot in Phoenix." Rourke closed the laptop. "You saved him, and Hale left you to die doing it." Emily stood, walked to her window. 3 floors down, traffic crawled through Reseda. People going to work, to school, living normal lives. She tried to join them, tried to be normal. But normal people didn't wake up at 0400, drenched in sweat, hearing rotor wash that wasn't there. "Why are you showing me this?" she asked. "Because Hale's nomination hearing is in 6 weeks. He's going to sit in front of Congress and talk about honor, sacrifice, the sacred duty we owe our troops." Rourke's voice hardened. "And I can't let that happen. So leak it. Send it to the press. I'm retired, no credibility. They'll call it a grudge, some old warrant officer with an axe to grind." Rourke joined her at the window. "But you? You're the victim. You're the one he left behind. Your voice matters." Emily turned. "You want me to testify?" "I want you to decide if the truth is worth fighting for." She didn't sleep that night, didn't even try. Instead, she sat at her card table, laptop open, searching. Marcus Hale, defense contractor. Hale nomination, assistant secretary. FOB Griffin, Haditha Province, casualties. The internet painted a picture of a hero. Hale's LinkedIn showed a career trajectory that belonged in a recruiting poster. Multiple combat tours, Bronze Star with Valor Device, commanded a battalion, then a brigade, retired as a full colonel, transitioned smoothly into the private sector. Now he ran a security consulting firm that pulled in 8-figure contracts training allied militaries. Every article praised his leadership. Every interview quoted his sound bites about duty and sacrifice. There were photos of him at veteran fundraisers, shaking hands with wounded warriors, playing the part of the man who cared. Emily clicked on a video. Senate hearing footage from his initial nomination vetting. Hale, in a dark suit, flag pin on his lapel, testifying about readiness and strategic priorities. A senator asked him about decision-making under pressure. "In combat, you don't have the luxury of perfect information," Hale said, voice steady, sincere. "You make the best call you can with what you have. Sometimes that means hard choices. But I've never ordered a Marine to do something I wouldn't do myself." Liar. Emily slammed the laptop shut. Her hands were shaking again, the tremor that started in her fingers and climbed up her arms. The VA doctor had called it hypervigilance, a symptom of post-traumatic stress. Emily called it rage with nowhere to go. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Carter," Rourke's voice. "You've been Googling. I can tell by your search patterns hitting certain keywords I'm monitoring." "You're tracking me?" "I'm protecting you. There's a difference." Background noise on his end. Traffic. Wind. He was moving. "Listen, tomorrow, 1400 hours, Santa Monica Pier. There's someone you need to meet." "I didn't say I was in." "You're still on the line. That's answer enough." Rourke paused. He knows what Hale did, and he's willing to help. "Who is he?" "Someone else," Hale threw away. The call ended. Emily sat in her dark apartment, listening to her upstairs neighbor's footsteps, the distant wail of sirens. The rifle case in her closet seemed to pulse like a second heartbeat. She hadn't opened it in 5 years, hadn't cleaned the weapon inside, hadn't even checked if the firing pin was still intact. But she knew exactly where it was. Same way she knew her blood type, her rifle number, the grid coordinates of every position she'd ever held. Some things you don't forget. Santa Monica Pier smelled like funnel cake and ocean rot. Emily arrived early, watched from the parking lot, scanning faces. Old habits. Rourke had said 1400 hours, but she'd learned a long time ago that early was on time, and on time was late. She spotted him at 13:55, walking up from the beach. He wasn't alone. The man with him was younger, maybe 40, wearing a Dodgers cap and sunglasses, trying to blend. He didn't. His gait gave him away, the slight hitch in his left leg that spoke of an injury improperly healed. Emily approached. "Rourke." "Carter, this is Daniel Ortiz." The world tilted again. The kid she'd saved, except he wasn't a kid anymore. Older, heavier, with crow's feet and a wedding ring. But his eyes were the same, the same terror she'd seen when she jammed her fist into his thigh to keep the artery from emptying him out. "Oh my God," Ortiz said. "It's really you." She didn't know what to say. What do you say to someone you pulled back from the edge? She'd saved 18 Marines over 6 years. Tourniquets, chest seals, airways. She didn't keep in touch. Couldn't. Every saved life reminded her of the ones she'd lost. "You look good," she managed. "I look alive because of you." Ortiz pulled off his sunglasses. His eyes were wet. "I've been trying to find you for 5 years, but your records were sealed. Medical discharge, privacy protection. Rourke tracked me down last month." They walked down the pier, past tourists and screaming kids. Emily kept her hands in her pockets, staying 3 steps back, maintaining distance. Rourke led them to the end, where the fishermen stood with their lines in the water. "Tell her," Rourke said. Ortiz looked out at the ocean. "After I got stateside, I tried to write you a letter. Wanted to thank you. They told me you'd been medevaced out, medical discharge, couldn't provide details. So I let it go. Figured you wanted to move on." "I did." "Then last year I saw Hale on the news, talking about his nomination, and something didn't sit right." Ortiz turned to her. "I remembered that day. Remembered you working on me, telling me to stay awake, keep pressure. I remembered the radio chatter, someone saying your name, someone saying we had to leave." "We were under fire," Emily said. "Evac protocol." "I pulled the after-action report, filed a FOIA request, took 8 months to get it. They gave me a redacted version, but I could read between the lines." Ortiz reached into his jacket, pulled out a manila folder. "The report says the decision to evacuate was made due to deteriorating tactical situation and aircraft weight limitations. It says all personnel were successfully extracted." Emily took the folder, opened it. Official letterhead, signatures, the bureaucratic language of war reduced to bullet points and timestamps. "Page 4, Ortiz said. She flipped. There, a casualty list. KIAWIA-RTD. Her name wasn't on it. According to the official record, she hadn't been there at all. "They erased you," Ortiz said quietly. "Made it like you were never on the ground. That way no one could ask why you were left behind." Rourke drove them to a motel in Culver City, the kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions. He'd rented a room, turned it into a makeshift operations center. Laptop, files, a corkboard with photos and string connecting faces. "Welcome to the war room," Rourke said. Emily studied the board. Hale's face in the center, radiating outward, names, positions, connections. His XO from Haditha, now a major working for Aegis Solutions, Hale's contracting firm. The drone operator who'd been on duty that night, retired, living in Virginia. The battalion sergeant major, promoted to command sergeant major, stationed in Quantico. "You've been building this for a while," Emily said. 3 years, ever since I heard Hale was angling for a political appointment." Rourke tapped Hale's photo. "I served with your father. Best Marine I ever knew. When I heard what happened to you, I started digging." "Why?" "Because no one else would." Rourke pulled up a chair. "The Corps protects its own, and by that I mean it protects its image. A colonel making a tough call under fire? That's defensible. A colonel deliberately sacrificing a medic to save weight on an evac bird? That's a war crime." Ortiz sat on the bed, still holding the folder. "The night I found out, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking, if she died, it would have been to save me, and they would have covered it up." "They tried to," Rourke said, "but Emily survived, which made her a loose end." Emily felt it then, the thing she'd been avoiding for 5 years. Not just anger, not just betrayal, something colder, sharper. "Show me the rest," she said. Rourke pulled up another file. Haditha wasn't the first time. 2 years earlier, Hale commanded a company in Helmand Province. They were ambushed on patrol. He called for fire support, called it danger close. right on top of his own position. That's standard when you're being overrun. Except he wasn't being overrun. Intel later showed the insurgent force was light, maybe a dozen fighters. Hale called in the strike anyway, killed 3 Marines, wounded 7 more. Officially ruled friendly fire, operational necessity. Emily's stomach turned. He killed his own men. He made a calculation. Lose 3, save 20. From his perspective, it was math. Rourke's voice went flat. From their family's perspective, it was murder. Ortiz stood, paced the small room. How is this guy not in Leavenworth? Because the Corps closed ranks. Hale's defenders said he made a tough call. The investigation cleared him. He got promoted. Rourke clicked to another file. But here's the thing, every officer who signed off on that investigation, they all work for him now. Aegis Solutions has 15 former Marine officers on its payroll. Every single one owed Hale a favor. Emily stared at the board. A network of complicity, a system designed to protect itself. What do you need from me? She asked. I need you to go on record. Testify before the Senate committee. Tell them what Hale did. They won't believe me. One medic against a decorated colonel? That's why we need more. Rourke tapped the board. There are others. Marines who served under Hale, who saw him make these calls. They're scared of retaliation, scared of losing their pensions. But if you step forward first, if you show them it's possible to tell the truth, they'll follow. Emily looked at Ortiz. You'd testify? I'm alive because of you. I'll do whatever it takes. The motel room felt too small, the walls closing in. Emily walked to the window, looked out at the parking lot. A family was loading luggage into a minivan, kids arguing over who sat where. Normal people, normal problems. She tried to be normal. It hadn't worked. If I do this, Emily said slowly, Hale will come after me. His lawyers, his PR team, his friends in Congress, they'll destroy my credibility. Yes, Rourke said, they will. They'll dig into my medical discharge, use my PTSD against me, say I'm unstable, unreliable, looking for attention. That's the playbook. Emily turned. And if we lose? If we expose him and he still gets confirmed? Rourke met her eyes. Then at least we tried. At least the truth will be out there. She thought about her father, thought about what he would have done. He'd been a hard man, carved from anger and duty, but he'd believed in something, believed the Corps stood for honor, integrity, commitment. The eagle, globe, and anchor tattooed on his forearm like a promise. Hale had broken that promise. Okay, Emily said, I'm in. They spent the next 3 days building the case. Rourke had documents, classified after-action reports, leaked emails, testimony from junior Marines who'd been at Haditha and Helmand. Ortiz helped fill in gaps, providing his own medical records that showed the severity of his wound, proof that Emily's intervention had been life-saving. Emily recorded her statement, sat in front of Rourke's camera and told the whole story. The firefight, the radio call, the moment she realized the bird wasn't coming back. It took 6 takes. She kept breaking down, the words jamming in her throat. You're doing fine, Rourke said. Just tell it like you lived it. On the 7th take, she got through it. 30 minutes of testimony, raw and unpolished. When she finished, Rourke saved the file, backed it up to 3 different drives. This is the ammunition, he said. Now we need to fire it. The plan was simple. Contact the Senate Armed Services Committee. Request a meeting with the ranking member's staff. Present the evidence. Let the political machinery do the rest. But on day 4, everything changed. Emily was back at her apartment, trying to sleep, when her phone rang. Blocked number. She answered. Corporal Carter. A woman's voice, professional, clipped. My name is Jessica Vance. I'm an attorney representing Colonel Marcus Hale. I'd like to speak with you about some allegations that have recently come to our attention. Emily sat up. How did you get this number? We understand you've been in contact with Jack Rourke, a disgraced former warrant officer with a history of making false accusations against superior officers. We also understand you possess classified material obtained through illegal channels. I don't know what you're talking about. Ms. Carter, let's not play games. You're in possession of drone footage from Operation Enduring Freedom. That footage is the property of the United States government. Distribution of classified material is a federal crime punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Emily's mouth went dry. You're threatening me. I'm informing you of the legal consequences of your actions. Vance's tone didn't change, still perfectly pleasant. However, Colonel Hale is a reasonable man. He understands you've been through trauma. He's willing to overlook this matter if you cease contact with Mr. Rourke and return all classified materials immediately. And if I don't, then we'll be forced to pursue all available legal remedies. That includes criminal charges, civil liability, and a very public examination of your mental health history. A pause. I've reviewed your VA records, Ms. Carter. Severe PTSD, depression, multiple suicide risk assessments. A good attorney could make a compelling case that you're not a reliable witness. Emily's hand tightened on the phone. My medical records are sealed. Nothing's truly sealed when you have the right connections. You have 48 hours to comply. After that, the offer expires. Vance hung up. Emily called Rourke. He answered on the first ring. They know, she said. I know. I got the same call. Different lawyer, same script. He didn't sound surprised. Hale's playing defense. That means we're getting close. They threaten me with prison. They're bluffing. Possession of classified material is a gray area when it comes to whistleblowing. And your PTSD diagnosis doesn't make you incompetent. It makes you a victim. They'll destroy me in the press. Yes, they will. Rourke's voice softened. Emily, I need you to understand what you're walking into. This isn't war. War has rules. This is politics. And in politics, the truth is just one weapon among many. Emily looked at her reflection in the dark window. She looked tired. She looked small. She looked like someone who'd been running for 5 years and just realized there was nowhere left to run. What do you want me to do? She asked. I want you to decide, right now, are you willing to lose everything to expose him? She thought about Hale in his suit, shaking hands with senators, thought about the Marines he'd sacrificed, the careers he'd ruined, the lies he'd told. Thought about her father's tattoo, that promise carved into skin. Yes, Emily said, I'm willing. The meeting with the Senate staffer happened in a coffee shop in Georgetown, neutral ground. Emily flew out on a red-eye, Rourke beside her, Ortiz following separately for security. They'd agreed, don't cluster, don't make it obvious. The staffer was a woman in her 30s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. Her name was Claire Mendoza, senior counsel for the Armed Services Committee. She ordered black coffee and got straight to business. You have 30 minutes, Mendoza said. Convince me this is worth my boss's time. Rourke slid the laptop across the table. Drone footage from FOB Griffin, Haditha Province, October 2019. Watch the timestamp at 18:47 hours. Mendoza watched. Her expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened on her coffee cup. When the audio played, Hale's voice, calm and cold, she closed her eyes briefly. Who else has seen this? She asked. Just us, and now you. If I take this to the committee, Hale's team will attack the source. They'll say it's fabricated, doctored, taken out of context, which is why we have corroboration. Emily opened her own folder. My testimony, Ortiz's statement, medical records proving the severity of his wound, radio logs from that day showing my position was marked friendly. Mendoza scanned the documents. Your medical discharge, they'll use that against you. I know. They'll put you on the stand and make you relive the worst day of your life. They'll question your memory, your stability, your motives. And if you break even once, they'll use it to discredit everything. Emily met her eyes. I've survived worse. Mendoza sat back. Why now? It's been 5 years. Why come forward when Hale's this close to confirmation? Because if I don't, he wins. He gets the job, gets the power, and the next time he has to choose between his career and someone's life, he'll make the same call. Emily's voice stayed level. I can live with what happened to me. I can't live with letting it happen to someone else. For the first time, Mendoza smiled. Small, tight, but real. Okay, I'll take it to the committee chair, but I need you to understand this is going to get ugly. Hale has friends, donors, people who've invested a lot of political capital in his nomination. I understand. Do you? Mendoza leaned forward. Because once you step into that hearing room, you're no longer a private citizen. You're a weapon, and weapons get used up. Emily thought about the rifle case in her closet, thought about the M4 she'd carried through Haditha, Ramadi, Fallujah. Every weapon wore out eventually. Metal fatigued. Springs broke. What mattered was whether you fired when it counted. I'm ready, Emily said. Mendoza gathered the documents. I'll be in touch within 72 hours. In the meantime, don't talk to the press. Don't post on social media. Don't give Hale's team any ammunition. They shook hands. Mendoza left first, disappearing into DC's morning rush. Emily and Rourke sat in silence, drinking cooling coffee. You did good, Rourke said finally. We haven't won yet. No, but we fired the first shot. He stood, dropped cash on the table. Now comes the hard part. What's that? Waiting to see if they shoot back. They didn't have to wait long. That night, Emily's phone exploded with notifications. Someone had leaked her name to the press. By morning, she was a headline. Disgraced medic attacks decorated colonel. The articles painted her as unstable, vengeful, a troubled veteran making wild accusations. Hale's camp had fired back, and the war had begun. The media storm hit like mortar fire, fast, indiscriminate, designed to suppress. Emily's face was on Fox News by noon, CNN by evening. Not her official service photo, the one where she looked squared away in dress blues. They'd found her booking photo from a drunk and disorderly charge in 2021, eyes hollow, hair matted. She'd been trying to numb the nightmares with Jack Daniels. It hadn't worked. Former Marine Corporal Emily Carter, who was medically discharged following a deployment to Iraq, is now making serious allegations against Colonel Marcus Hale, the anchor said, voice dripping with skepticism. Sources close to Hale describe Carter as troubled, with a documented history of mental health issues and substance abuse. Emily watched from her apartment, laptop open, phone silenced. The comments section was a war zone. Half called her a hero for speaking up. Half called her a disgrace, a liar, a washout looking for attention. Rourke had warned her, didn't make it easier. Her phone buzzed, not a call, a text from an unknown number. Just a photo. Emily opened it, felt her stomach drop. It was her VA psychiatrist's office, the building she'd gone to for 6 months before giving up. Someone had taken the photo yesterday, fresh, recent. The message came through. We know where you go. We know who you talk to. Last warning. Emily deleted it, stood, paced her apartment, feeling the walls close in. This was different from Haditha. In Haditha, she'd known who was shooting at her. Here the enemy wore suits and smiled for cameras. Her door rattled. 3 sharp knocks. She checked the peephole. Rourke holding 2 coffees and a bag from the taqueria down the street. Saw the news, he said when she let him in. You doing okay? Define okay. He set the food on her card table. You're still standing. That's okay enough. He pulled out his phone, showed her the screen. Mendoza called. The committee chair wants to see us. Tomorrow, 0900. That's fast. They're trying to get ahead of the media cycle. If they announce an inquiry now, it controls the narrative. Rourke unwrapped a burrito, slid it toward her. Eat. You look like a POW. Emily picked at the food. She'd lost 12 pounds in the last week. Couldn't keep anything down. They're following me. Sent me a photo of the VA office. Rourke's expression hardened. Intimidation tactics. Standard playbook for corporate security firms. Aegis probably hired a PI firm. It's working. Good. She looked up. Good? Means they're scared. If they weren't worried about what you have, they wouldn't waste resources trying to scare you off. He took a bite, chewed slowly. Question is, are you scared enough to quit? Emily thought about the photo, thought about the comments calling her crazy, unstable, a liar, thought about Hale in his suit, shaking hands with power. No, she said. I'm angry enough to finish. The committee chair was Senator Elizabeth Hargrove, former Navy JAG officer, 16 years in the Senate. Her office was decorated with photos of ships and submarines, a reminder that she'd served before she'd governed. She shook Emily's hand with a grip that could crack walnuts. Corporal Carter, Jack, sit. They sat. Hargrove stayed standing, arms crossed, studying Emily the way you study a weapon before deployment, checking for cracks, weak points, failure potential. I've reviewed your materials, Hargrove said. The drone footage is compelling. The audio is damning. But I need to know, can you handle what comes next? Yes, ma'am. Because the moment we announce this inquiry, Hale's team will deploy every dirty trick in the book. They'll leak your medical records. They'll find everyone you've ever wronged, every mistake you've made, every weak moment. They'll put it all on display and dare you to keep standing. Emily's hands were steady. That surprised her. I understand. Do you? Because I've seen this play out before. Whistleblowers, survivors, people who thought they were strong enough to face the machine. Most of them break. And when they break, the truth dies with them. I won't break. Hargrove finally sat. Colonel Hale is a decorated officer. He has friends in the Pentagon, allies in Congress, donors who've invested millions in his success. If we move forward with this investigation and it falls apart, it doesn't just hurt you. It hurts every future whistleblower who might come forward. Then we make sure it doesn't fall apart, Rourke said. How? The footage is classified. The moment we introduce it as evidence, Hale's lawyers will challenge the legality of how it was obtained. They'll argue it's inadmissible. There are other witnesses, Emily said. Marines who served under Hale. People who saw him make these decisions. Will they testify? Silence. Because that was the question, wasn't it? How many people were willing to sacrifice their careers, their pensions, their reputations to tell the truth? Hargrove leaned back. Here's what I can offer. We open a preliminary inquiry. Closed session, limited scope. We interview you, Ortiz, anyone else willing to go on record. If the evidence supports your claims, we expand to a full investigation and hold public hearings. And if it doesn't, Emily asked, then it dies quietly and Hale gets confirmed. Hargrove's voice softened slightly. I want to believe you, Corporal, but I need more than belief. I need proof that can survive a courtroom. We'll get it, Emily said. She just didn't know how yet. The Aegis Solutions annual gala was held at the Ritz-Carlton in Arlington. Black tie, invitation only. Defense contractors, retired generals, sitting congressmen. The kind of event where policy was shaped over cocktails and cigars. Hale would be there. He always was. Guest of honor, probably. Emily stood across the street, watching limousines pull up to the entrance. She wore jeans and a jacket, hair pulled back, trying to blend with the evening foot traffic. Rourke was 2 blocks away in a surveillance van, watching through a laptop feed. You don't have to do this, his voice said through the earbuds she wore. Yes, I do. The plan was simple. Get close, get evidence, get out. Rourke had sources inside Aegis, former Marines who'd taken contractor jobs but still believed in something beyond a paycheck. One of them had provided a guest list, a floor plan, and a security access card cloned to look legitimate. Emily crossed the street. The security checkpoint was light: metal detector, bag check, ID verification. She handed over a fake credential that identified her as a journalist from Defense Weekly. The guard barely glanced at it. Inside, the ballroom was all crystal and champagne. Men in tuxedos, women in gowns, everyone radiating wealth and influence. Emily spotted Hale immediately. He stood near the bar, surrounded by admirers, laughing at someone's joke. He looked relaxed, happy. She felt her hands curl into fists. "Easy," Rourke said through the earbud. "You're there to observe, not engage." Emily grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, using it as camouflage. She drifted through the crowd, listening to conversations. People talked about contracts, deployments, the upcoming defense budget. They talked about Hale's nomination like it was already decided. "He's going to transform the department," someone said, "bring real combat experience to policy decisions." Emily wanted to scream, wanted to tell them what real combat experience looked like, bleeding out in the dirt while your CO left you behind. But she stayed quiet, kept moving, looking for anything useful. Then she saw him, the Major, Hale's former XO from Haditha, the one who'd signed the after-action report. He was standing near the exit, checking his phone, alone for the moment. Emily moved before she could think, walked up, positioned herself in his line of sight. "Major Kelso?" He looked up, didn't recognize her. Why would he? He'd erased her from the record. "Do I know you?" he asked. "We served together. FOB Griffin. You were the XO." Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or just calculation. "I'm sorry, I meet a lot of Marines. What was your name?" "Emily Carter. I was the medic you left behind." Now she had his attention. His face went carefully neutral, the way officers looked when they were deciding how much trouble you were worth. "Miss Carter, I heard you were making some accusations." His voice dropped low. "I'd be very careful about what you say in public." "Why? Afraid someone might hear the truth? Afraid you might say something you can't take back?" Kelso glanced around, making sure no one was listening. "You need to understand, what happened that day was a tactical decision made under extreme circumstances. Second-guessing it now, 5 years later, with perfect hindsight, that's not fair to anyone." "Fair? You marked me KIA to cover it up. We marked you missing in action, then recovered. Standard protocol." But his voice had an edge now. "You're alive. You got your benefits. You should be grateful." Emily felt something cold settle in her chest. Grateful that I wasn't worth extracting? Grateful that Colonel Hale made the hard call that saved 30 other Marines, including the kid you were treating. Kelso straightened his tie. "Walk away, Carter. Whatever Rourke promised you, it's not worth it. You go to war with Hale, you'll lose everything." "I already lost everything." "Then you've got nothing left to lose. That makes you dangerous." Kelso leaned closer. "But it also makes you predictable. See, I know how this ends. You testify. We discredit you. Hale gets confirmed, and you go back to your shitty apartment with nothing but regrets." He walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Emily stood there, champagne glass shaking in her hand. Through the earbud, Rourke's voice. "Did you get that?" She touched her jacket, feeling the button camera sewn into the lapel. "Every word." "Good. Now get out before someone recognizes you." But Emily wasn't done. She spotted Hale again, now standing alone near a window, checking his phone. This was her chance. Maybe her only chance. She walked up. "Colonel Hale." He looked at her, really looked, and she saw the moment he recognized her. His smile didn't waver, but his eyes went flat. "Corporal Carter," he said pleasantly, "this is a surprise." "Is it? I heard you were in town. Making waves from what I understand. He slipped his phone into his pocket. You look well. Better than the last time I saw you. You mean when you left me to die? I mean when you were medevaced from a very dangerous situation. His voice stayed calm, conversational. Anyone watching would think they were discussing the weather. You saved PFC Ortiz's life that day. That took courage. It took you giving the order to abandon me. It took me making an impossible decision with incomplete information. Hale's smile sharpened. I had 32 Marines on that bird in a deteriorating tactical situation. You were out of visual contact. Your radio was intermittent. I had to make a call. You had drone coverage. You knew exactly where I was. Drone footage can be misleading. Thermal imaging, smoke, chaos. Nothing is certain in war. He gestured around the ballroom. But you didn't come here to rehash old grievances. You came to see the man you're trying to destroy. So here I am. Was it worth it? Emily met his eyes. I came to see if you feel anything. Regret, guilt, anything. I feel sorry for you, Hale said quietly. I do. You're a talented medic who suffered a traumatic experience. You deserve help, support, a chance to heal. Instead, you're letting a bitter old warrant officer use you as a weapon against me. Jack didn't force me to do anything. Didn't he? He showed you classified footage, fed you a narrative, convinced you that you're a victim instead of a survivor. Hale's voice softened, becoming almost kind. Emily, can I call you Emily? You don't have to do this. The Senate inquiry, the media circus, it's going to destroy you, but it doesn't have to. I can make this go away. How? You withdraw your testimony, say you were mistaken, overwhelmed, that you misunderstood what happened. I'll personally ensure you get the best treatment available. Full benefits, private care, whatever you need. He paused. And I'll forget that you broke into a private event wearing a hidden camera. Emily's blood went cold. He knew. My security team spotted you the moment you walked in, Hale said. They're very good, but I told them to let you stay. Wanted to see what you'd do, who you'd talk to. He gestured at Kelso across the room. That conversation you recorded? It won't be admissible. He's a private citizen now. No expectation of public statement. He admitted to the cover-up. He explained operational procedure. There's a difference. Hale checked his watch. You have about 3 minutes before my people politely escort you out. So let me make this very simple. Drop the inquiry, get help, move on with your life. Or continue down this path and lose everything. Your credibility, your benefits, possibly your freedom if we pursue criminal charges for illegal surveillance. Emily's hands were shaking again. Not from fear, from rage. You left me, she said quietly. You looked at your screen, saw me with Ortiz, and decided I was acceptable loss. And you did it so smoothly, so easily, like I was just another number in your tactical assessment. I saved 32 lives. You sacrificed mine. You lived. No, Emily said. I survived. There's a difference. She turned and walked toward the exit. Security didn't stop her. Hale had made his point. He was in control. He'd always been in control. Outside, Emily ripped off the button camera, threw it in a trash can. She didn't care about the footage, didn't care about evidence. She walked 3 blocks before she stopped, leaning against a building, trying to breathe. Rourke found her there. I saw it all. You okay? He knew I was coming. He let me walk in, let me record Kelso, let me confront him, because none of it matters. Emily looked up at him. He's right. We can't win. Hey, Rourke grabbed her shoulders. Look at me. You hear what you're saying? That's what he wants. He wants you to quit. I'm not quitting. I'm being realistic. He has lawyers, money, power. We have a stolen video and the testimony of a PTSD-riddled medic. Who do you think wins that fight? The one who doesn't give up. This isn't war, Jack. You said it yourself. This is politics. And in politics, truth is just one weapon among many. Rourke let her go, step back. So what do you want to do? Walk away? Let him win? Emily thought about her father, thought about the tattoo, the promise, thought about Ortiz, alive because she'd stayed, thought about the next medic who might end up in her position, calling for help that wouldn't come. I want to hurt him, she said quietly, not just expose him, hurt him the way he hurt me. Rourke was quiet for a long moment. That's not justice. I know. That's revenge. I know. Emily, he took everything from me, my career, my sanity, my belief that any of it mattered. He gets to live in a mansion and shake hands with senators while I can't sleep through the night. Where's the justice in that? Rourke studied her face. What are you saying? Emily met his eyes. I'm saying maybe the truth isn't enough. Maybe we need to hit him where it actually hurts. His career, his life. She pushed off the building. He made me acceptable loss? Fine, let's make him one too. They didn't speak on the drive back to Emily's apartment. Rourke kept glancing at her, weighing something, deciding how far she'd go. Emily stared out the window, watching D.C. blur past. Expensive restaurants and political offices and monuments to dead heroes. Inside her apartment, Rourke finally broke the silence. What you said back there, you mean it? Does it matter? Yeah, it does. He sat heavily in her single chair. Because I've walked this road before. Revenge disguised as justice. It doesn't end the way you think. You said you served with my father. 3 deployments, best Marine I knew. Then you know what he would have done. Rourke shook his head. Your father believed in the rule of law. He'd want you to do this right. He also believed in loyalty, in not leaving people behind. Emily's voice cracked. Where was the rule of law when Hale abandoned me? Where was it when they erased me from the record? It was broken, and we're trying to fix it. By going through proper channels, by trusting the system that protected him. She laughed, sharp and bitter. The system doesn't want the truth. It wants order, stability, and Hale represents that. I'm just noise. Rourke stood. Listen to me. If you go after Hale outside the law, you become what he is. You prove every terrible thing his lawyers will say about you. Maybe I am those things. Unstable, vengeful, dangerous. No, you're hurt, and hurt people make bad decisions. He moved to the door. I'm going to leave, give you time to cool down. But Emily, when you wake up tomorrow, I need you to remember something. You're not doing this for revenge. You're doing it so the next Emily Carter doesn't have to. He left. Emily sat alone in her apartment, listening to the buildings settle, the sirens outside. She knew Rourke was right, knew that crossing certain lines meant you couldn't come back. But she also knew that playing by the rules had gotten her nothing. The Senate inquiry would take months. Hale's confirmation hearing was in 3 weeks. By the time the truth came out, if it ever did, he'd be Assistant Secretary of Defense with enough power to bury it for good. Her phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, then saw the preview. I know what Hale did. I can help. Emily opened it. The message continued. Former Marine, served under Hale in Helmand. I have evidence. Meet me tomorrow, 1600, Lincoln Memorial. She stared at the message. Could be legitimate, could be a trap, could be Hale's team trying to gather more ammunition. Didn't matter. She was going. The Lincoln Memorial at 1600 was crowded with tourists. Emily sat on the steps, scanning faces, looking for someone who carried themselves like military. She'd told Rourke where she was going. He'd argued against it. She'd come anyway. At 1608, a man sat down beside her. 50s, gray beard, Semper Fi tattoo on his forearm. He didn't look at her, just stared straight ahead at Lincoln's statue. Corporal Carter, he said quietly. Who are you? Gunnery Sergeant Peter Hayes. Retired. I was with Hale and Hellman when he called in that fire mission, the one that killed 3 Marines. Emily's pulse quickened. Why are you here? Because I saw the news, saw what you're trying to do, and I realized I've been carrying this for too long. Hayes pulled out a phone, showed her the screen, photo of a document, radio logs, the original transcript from that fire mission. This is the unredacted version. Shows Hale requested danger close when the tactical situation didn't require it. Where did you get this? I kept a copy, always knew someone might need it someday. Hayes finally looked at her. Those 3 Marines who died, one was my best friend. We'd served together for 12 years. Hale killed him because it looked better on paper to call for fire support than to risk a prolonged engagement. Why didn't you come forward before? Because I was scared, had a family, a pension, a life. Figured it was better to stay quiet. He pocketed the phone. But watching Hale get promoted, get honored, get everything while my friend stays buried in Arlington? Can't do it anymore. Emily felt something shift. Will you testify? That's why I'm here, but I need something from you first. What? Proof that this won't be for nothing. That if I burn my life down, there's a chance we actually stop him. Hayes' voice hardened. Because if I go on record and he still gets confirmed, I'm done. No pension, no benefits, no future. My wife leaves me. My kids don't talk to me. It all falls apart. I can't promise we'll win. Then promise me you'll fight like hell. Emily met his eyes, saw the same look she'd seen in her own mirror. Someone who'd been carrying weight too long, who'd reached the point where silence was more painful than consequence. I promise, she said. Hayes nodded. Okay, I'm in. You tell me what you need. They talked for an hour. Hayes had more than just radio logs. He had testimony from other Marines who'd been at Hellman, men who'd seen Hale make the call, who'd questioned it at the time but been told to stay quiet. He had a network, retired gunnies and staff sergeants who still talked, who still cared about honor. Give me 2 weeks, Hayes said. I'll get you 5 witnesses, maybe more. Hale's hearing is in 3 weeks. Then we better move fast. Emily watched him leave, feeling something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. Small, fragile, but real. Her phone buzzed. Rourke. Where are you? She texted back. Lincoln Memorial. Found another witness. Hayes, Gunny, Hellman. 3 dots appeared then. Be careful. If Hayes is real, Hale's team will find out. They'll go after him too. Emily knew. But Hayes had made his choice. Same as her. Same as Ortiz. People were lining up, willing to stand against Hale, even if it cost them everything. That had to mean something. Hayes delivered. Over the next 10 days, 5 more Marines came forward. All retired, all with stories about Hale's command decisions that prioritized optics over lives. They met in secret, diner parking lots, public parks. One memorable session in a bowling alley where the noise covered their conversation. Each witness was vetted by Rourke. Background checks, service records, confirmation that they'd been where they claimed. Every story checked out. Hale had a pattern. When faced with difficult tactical situations, he consistently chose the option that would look best in after-action reports, even if it cost lives. He's a bureaucrat in a uniform, one staff sergeant said. Cares more about his officer evaluation report than his Marines. But as the witness list grew, so did the pressure. Hale's legal team went nuclear. Emily woke up one morning to find her bank accounts frozen. Civil lawsuit claiming she owed damages for defamation. Her landlord received a letter saying she was under federal investigation, asking if he wanted to continue renting to her. Her VA benefits were temporarily suspended, pending review of eligibility. They're trying to starve you out, Rourke said. Make it impossible to function. Emily was living on cash now, sleeping on Ortiz's couch in Phoenix. She'd fled LA after someone slashed her tires and left a note. Last warning. How much longer? She asked. Mendoza says the preliminary inquiry report is done. Hargrove's reviewing it now. If she's satisfied, they'll schedule the public hearing. If. Emily. No, I mean it. How do we know this isn't all for nothing? We're gathering witnesses, building a case, and Hale's team is dismantling my life piece by piece. What if Hargrove decides it's not worth the political capital? Rourke didn't have an answer. The next blow came from an unexpected angle. Ortiz called, voice shaking. They went after my family. What happened? Someone contacted my wife, told her that if I testify, they'll audit our taxes for the last 10 years. Look for any discrepancy, destroy us financially. He paused. My wife's pregnant. We just bought a house. I don't know if I can do this. Emily closed her eyes. I understand. Do you? Because I want to help you. I owe you my life. But I have a family now. I have people depending on me. Then take care of them. That's what matters. But what about you? I'll figure it out. She hung up, sat on Ortiz's back porch, watching Phoenix spread out below. Another witness gone. Not because Hale had disproven his testimony, but because the cost was too high. How many others would fold? Her phone rang. Mendoza. We have a problem, the staffer said without preamble. Someone leaked the witness list to Hale's team. They're contacting each person individually, making offers. Drop out of the inquiry, get a consulting job with Aegis. Stay silent, keep your pension. Testify, lose everything. How many have we lost? 3 so far. Hayes is still solid, but the others are wavering. Emily felt the ground shifting under her. What about the hearing? Hargrove wants to move forward, but she needs at least 4 witnesses besides you to make it credible. Right now we have you, Hayes, and maybe 2 others. Mendoza sighed. I'm not going to lie to you. It's looking thin. What do you need from me? Honestly, a miracle. The line went quiet. Or evidence so damning that witnesses don't matter. After the call ended, Emily sat in the dark. Evidence so damning. She thought about the drone footage, already dismissed by Hale's lawyers as lacking context. Thought about the radio logs, written off as standard tactical communication. Thought about witness testimony that was crumbling under pressure. What could possibly be damning enough? Her phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. You're losing. I can help you win. But the price is high. Emily stared at the message. Trap? Probably. Did she care? Not anymore. She texted back. What's the price? The response came instantly. Everything. The meeting was set for midnight in Rock Creek Park. Isolated trail. No witnesses. Rourke absolutely forbade it. Emily went anyway. She walked the trail alone, hand on the knife in her pocket. Not much, but something. A figure emerged from the shadows. Woman, late 30s, dressed in running gear that didn't quite hide the Glock on her hip. Corporal Carter, I'm Sarah Voss, former CIA. She kept her distance, hands visible. I know what Hale did to you, and I know how to destroy him. Why would CIA care about a Marine colonel? Because Hale's not just a Marine, he's an asset, or he was. Voss pulled out a tablet, showed Emily a file. 3 years ago, Aegis Solutions won a contract training Afghan security forces. The contract was riddled with irregularities, inflated costs, phantom employees, money disappearing into shell companies. Military contracting fraud, not exactly rare. No, but when the Defense Department started investigating, all the evidence vanished. Files deleted, witnesses transferred, the investigation shut down. Voss zoomed in on a document. I was part of the team looking into it. We had proof that Hale was funneling contract money to fund off-books operations in Syria. Black sites, unaccounted personnel, things that would have ended his career and put him in prison. Emily studied the file. Numbers, bank transfers, coded communications. Why are you showing me this? Because when I tried to report it, I was shut down. reassigned, threatened. Turns out Hale has friends in high places, people who benefit from his willingness to bend rules. Voss's voice hardened. They're going to confirm him. The Senate inquiry, your testimony, none of it matters. He's too valuable to the machine. Then why tell me? Because I'm done playing by their rules. Voss handed her the tablet. This file contains everything: financial records, communication logs, proof of criminal activity. It's enough to put Hale away for 20 years. But it's also highly classified. If you use it, you're committing espionage. Emily felt cold. You're asking me to become a criminal. I'm giving you a choice. Play by the rules and lose, or break the rules and win. Voss stepped back. Whatever you decide, you have 24 hours. After that, I delete everything and disappear. I've already sacrificed enough for the truth. She vanished into the darkness, leaving Emily alone with the tablet. Emily walked back to Ortiz's house, mind racing. The file was explosive: financial crimes, illegal operations, cover-ups that reached the highest levels of government. If she released it, Hale was finished. But so was she. Espionage charges carried life sentences. Inside, Rourke was waiting. He saw the tablet, saw her face. "What did you do?" he asked quietly. Emily told him everything. When she finished, Rourke sat heavily on the couch. "This is a trap," he said. "You release that file, they'll arrest you before it hits the media, bury you in federal prison where no one can hear your testimony." "Maybe." "Maybe?" He stood. "Emily, this is exactly what they want. They backed you into a corner where your only option is to commit a crime that discredits everything you've said. Or I don't use it, and Hale gets confirmed anyway." "There are other ways." "Name one." Emily's voice rose. "The witnesses are dropping out. The evidence is inadmissible. The Senate is stalling. Hale is 3 weeks away from becoming one of the most powerful men in the Pentagon. So tell me, Jack, what's the other way?" Rourke had no answer. Emily looked at the tablet. "My father believed in rules, believed the system worked. And maybe it did, once. But not anymore. The system protects people like Hale and chews up people like me. Your father also believed in honor, in doing things the right way." "Yeah, well," Emily's laugh was bitter. "Look where that got him. Dead in Fallujah, while the brass he trusted sent him into a meat grinder." She saw the wound land. Rourke had been there when her father died, had pulled his body from the wreckage. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "That wasn't fair." "No, but it was honest." Rourke moved to the door. "I can't help you with this. If you use that file, you're on your own." "I know. And when they come for you, and they will come, you'll have no one to back you up. No lawyer, no protection, no one." "I know." Rourke looked at her for a long moment. "Your father would be proud of who you were. I hope you don't become someone he wouldn't recognize." He left. Emily sat alone with the tablet, the file glowing in the darkness. She had 24 hours to decide. Commit a crime and destroy Hale, or stay clean and let him win. The knife's edge between justice and revenge. Emily didn't sleep. She spent the night reading every document in Voss's file. The financial irregularities were damning. Millions diverted through shell companies, contracts awarded to firms that existed only on paper. But the real payload was deeper. Hale hadn't just committed fraud. He'd used the money to fund operations that weren't authorized by Congress or the DoD. Private prisons in Syria where suspected insurgents were interrogated without oversight. Payments to warlords in Afghanistan who were supposed to be enemies. Arms shipments that ended up in the wrong hands. It was a shadow war funded by stolen money and covered up by a network of complicit officers. At 500, Emily made her decision. She copied the file to 3 thumb drives, encrypted them, prepared to release. But first, she needed to warn the people who'd stood by her. She called Hayes. "Gunny, it's Carter. I need you to withdraw from the inquiry." Silence. Then, Why? Because I'm about to do something that's going to blow this whole thing up, and I don't want you caught in the blast. What are you planning? It's better if you don't know. Just trust me. Pull out now, before it's too late. Will it work? Whatever you're doing? Emily looked at the file. Yeah, it'll work. Then I'm staying in. If you're willing to risk everything, so am I. Hayes. I've been carrying this guilt for 15 years, Carter. Let me finally do something about it. He paused. Besides, Marines don't abandon each other. That's what makes us different from Hale. Emily felt her throat tighten. Semper Fi, Gunny. Semper Fi. She made similar calls to the remaining witnesses. Some withdrew, others stayed. By 0800, she had her answer. 3 witnesses besides her, plus Hayes. Not enough to guarantee victory, but enough to make noise. At 900, she met Mendoza at a coffee shop, slid the tablet across the table. What's this? Mendoza asked. Evidence, financial crimes, illegal operations, enough to put Hale in prison. Mendoza opened the file, scanned the contents. Her face went pale. Where did you get this? Does it matter? Yes, because if this is classified material obtained illegally, it is. Mendoza closed the tablet. I can't use this. It's fruit of the poisonous tree. The moment we introduce it, Hale's lawyers will have it thrown out, and you'll be charged with espionage. I know. Then why show me? Because I need you to know I'm serious. This isn't about revenge anymore. Hale isn't just a bad commander, he's a criminal. And if the legal system won't stop him, something else has to. Mendoza studied her. What are you going to do? Leak it. Send it to every journalist, every watchdog organization, every congressional office I can find. Make it impossible to ignore. That's suicide. Maybe, but at least the truth will be out there. Emily stood. Thank you for trying, really, but I'm done playing their game. She left before Mendoza could respond, walked 3 blocks, found an internet cafe, logged into an anonymous email account. Then she started sending. 20 journalists, 30 oversight organizations, every member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Subject line, the truth about Marcus Hale. She hit send, felt the point of no return pass. Her phone rang immediately. Blocked number. She answered. Ms. Carter, a man's voice, unfamiliar. This is Special Agent Morrison, FBI. We need you to come in for questioning regarding the unauthorized possession and distribution of classified material. Emily hung up. They'd been monitoring her. Probably had been for weeks. She looked around the cafe. No agents yet, but they'd be coming. She had maybe 10 minutes. Emily left through the back exit, ditched her phone in a dumpster, started walking. No destination, just movement. The file was out. Couldn't take it back. Couldn't stop what was coming. Behind her, sirens. For 2 days, Emily ran. Crashed with former Marines who didn't ask questions. Moved every 6 hours. Stayed off cameras. The news exploded. Hale's financial crimes were front-page headlines. His nomination was suspended pending investigation. Senators called for hearings, demanded answers. But they also called for Emily's arrest. Fugitive former Marine leaks classified documents, the headlines read. Her face was everywhere. Wanted by the FBI, labeled a traitor by Hale's supporters, called a hero by whistleblower advocates. The narrative was fracturing in real time. On day 3, Rourke found her. She was hiding in a storage unit in Baltimore, living on vending machine food and paranoia. You need to turn yourself in, he said. I know. They're offering a deal. Cooperate, testify about your source, get reduced charges. I can't give up Voss. She risked everything to get me that file. Then you're looking at 20 years in federal prison. Rourke sat beside her on the concrete floor. Was it worth it? Emily thought about the headlines, thought about Hale's nomination suspended, his career imploding, the truth finally out in the open where it couldn't be buried. Yeah, she said. It was worth it. Your father wouldn't have done this. My father played by the rules, and the rules got him killed. Emily looked at Rourke. I'm not him. I'm just someone who got tired of losing. Rourke pulled out a phone. Mendoza called. The committee wants you to testify before they decide whether to prosecute. It's a chance to tell your story, explain why you did it. Will it help? Probably not, but it's better than hiding in a storage unit. Emily took the phone, looked at Mendoza's number. One call and this was over. She'd testify, go to trial, probably spend years in prison. But the truth was out. Hale was finished. People knew what he'd done. That had to count for something. Okay, she said, let's do it. She dialed. Mendoza answered on the first ring. I want to come in, Emily said, but on my terms. I testify first. Then I'll cooperate with the FBI. That's not how this works. That's how it works for me. I get to tell my story before you lock me up. After that, you can do whatever you want. Silence. Then, I'll see what I can do. 2 hours later, Emily turned herself into the FBI field office in Baltimore. They processed her, read her rights, put her in a holding cell. She sat on the metal bench, exhausted, relieved. It was over. Or at least one part was over. The real fight was just beginning. The hearing room was smaller than Emily expected. No grand chamber with marble columns, just a standard conference room in the Hart Senate office building. Fluorescent lights, government-issue furniture. The kind of place where careers ended quietly. Emily sat at the witness table in an orange jumpsuit, wrist cuffed to a chain at her waist. Federal custody. They transported her from the Baltimore Detention Center at 0600. 3 agents in an unmarked sedan. No press, no cameras. Mendoza had negotiated a closed preliminary session before the public spectacle. Senator Hargrove sat at the center of the committee panel, flanked by 4 other senators, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. Behind them, staffers whispered and shuffled papers. To Emily's left, a court reporter typed silently. To her right, Rourke sat in the gallery, face unreadable. This hearing will come to order, Hargrove's voice cut through the murmur. We are here to receive testimony from Corporal Emily Carter regarding allegations against Colonel Marcus Hale, as well as to address the unauthorized disclosure of classified material. She looked directly at Emily. Corporal, you understand you are under oath? Yes, ma'am. And you understand that anything you say here can and will be used against you in criminal proceedings? I understand. Hargrove opened a folder. Let's start with October 14th, 2019. F.O.B. Griffin, Haditha Province. Tell us what happened. Emily took a breath. She'd rehearsed this 1,000 times in her cell, but the words still came hard. We were conducting a routine patrol sweep when insurgents hit the FOB. Heavy fire, RPGs, coordinated assault. I was treating casualties at the collection point when the evac order came. What was your position at that time? Northwest corner of the compound, approximately 60 meters from the designated landing zone. I was working on PFC Daniel Ortiz, shrapnel wound to the femoral artery, critical but stable if we could get him out. And the evacuation? The Black Hawk landed. I heard the loadmaster calling for walking wounded first, then litter cases. I called on the radio, said I had 1 critical, needed immediate transport. Emily's voice stayed level, factual. The response was, Roger, stand by for second bird. But there was no second bird. No, ma'am. The tactical situation deteriorated. The CO, Colonel Hale, made the decision to evacuate with the bird at capacity. Senator Carlson, a Republican from Texas, leaned forward. And you were left behind? Yes, sir. How long before you were extracted? 3 hours. A local militia found me, transported me to a Marine checkpoint 15 clicks east. During those 3 hours, were you in danger? Emily met his eyes. Sir, I was in a combat zone with no support, limited ammunition, and a wounded Marine who couldn't move. Yes, I was in danger. Carlson nodded slowly. And you believe Colonel Hale deliberately abandoned you? This was it. The moment everything pivoted. I believe Colonel Hale made a calculated decision that my life was worth less than the convenience of a clean evacuation. Emily's voice hardened. I know this because I've heard the drone footage. I've heard him say, she's acceptable loss. Not a mistake, a decision. Murmurs rippled through the room. Hargrove gavelled once. Order! Corporal Carter, you obtained that footage through illegal means. Yes, ma'am. And you leaked classified financial records regarding Colonel Hale's activities at Aegis Solutions. Yes, ma'am. Why? Emily looked at each senator in turn. Because the legal methods weren't working. Because witnesses were being intimidated. Because the truth was being buried under lawyer tactics and political pressure. She paused. I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Sometimes the enemies wear suits instead of uniforms. Senator Williams, a Democrat from California, spoke up. You're aware that what you did constitutes espionage? I'm aware it constitutes unauthorized disclosure of classified material. Yes, ma'am. The distinction matters. Espionage implies intent to harm national security. Did you intend to harm national security? No, ma'am. I intended to expose criminal activity by a senior officer. By committing a crime yourself. Yes, ma'am. Emily leaned forward as far as her chains allowed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not claiming I did the right thing in the right way. But I'm asking you to look at what that file contains. Look at what Hale did. And ask yourself, who's the real threat to national security? Hargrove closed her folder. We'll take a 15-minute recess. Corporal Carter will remain in custody. The senators filed out. Emily sat alone at the table, wrists aching from the cuffs. An agent stood by the door, watching her like she might bolt. Where would she go? She'd already run as far as she could. Rourke caught her eye from the gallery, gave her a small nod. It wasn't approval, but it was acknowledgement. She'd said what needed saying. When the hearing resumed, Hargrove's expression had changed. Harder, more resolved. We've reviewed the preliminary findings regarding the classified material you disclosed, she said. The financial irregularities are substantiated. The illegal operations are substantiated. Colonel Hale's activities at Aegis Solutions constitute a pattern of criminal behavior that demands full investigation. Emily felt something unclench in her chest. However, Hargrove continued, that does not excuse your actions. You violated federal law, you compromised operational security, and you did so outside proper whistleblower channels. There were no proper channels, Emily said. I tried. I contacted this committee. I provided evidence through legal means. It wasn't enough. Because the system moves slowly. That's by design. Due process requires time. And in that time, Hale would have been confirmed, would have gained power to bury this forever. Emily's voice rose. How many more Marines would he have sacrificed before someone stopped him? That's not for you to decide. Senator Carlson's face flushed red. You're not a judge. You're not a jury. You're a corporal who broke the law because you didn't like the timeline. I broke the law because the law was protecting a criminal. That's not how this works. Then maybe it should. Emily surged against her restraints. You want to talk about how it works? How it worked was Hale leaving me to die. How it worked was the Corps erasing me from the record. How it worked was witnesses being threatened into silence. So forgive me if I don't have a lot of faith in the process. Silence. The court reporter's fingers paused on the keys. Hargrove spoke quietly. Corporal Carter, I understand your anger. I do. But the moment we abandon the rule of law, even for good reasons, we lose everything that makes us different from the people we're fighting. Emily slumped back. Then I guess I lost that a long time ago. The door opened. A staffer entered, whispered urgently to Hargrove. The senator's eyes widened. She looked at Emily with something like surprise. "We're going to take another recess," Hargrove said. "Something's come up." They moved Emily to a holding room, small, windowless, one table and two chairs. She sat alone for 20 minutes before the door opened, and Mendoza entered, carrying a laptop. "You need to see this," the staffer said. She turned the laptop around. News footage, CNN, a press conference, and standing at the podium was Marcus Hale. "Have decided to withdraw my nomination for Assistant Secretary of Defense," Hale was saying, voice measured and calm. "The recent allegations have made it clear that my continued candidacy would be a distraction from the important work of this administration." Emily stared. "He's stepping down?" "Keep watching." Hale continued. "I want to address Corporal Emily Carter directly. What happened at FOB Griffin was a tragedy. A decision made under impossible circumstances. I have carried that weight for 5 years, and I will carry it for the rest of my life." He paused and for a moment looked directly into the camera. "Emily, I am sorry. You deserve better. You deserved a commander who found a way to bring you home. I failed you, and for that, I will never forgive myself." The press erupted with questions. Hale raised a hand. "I will not be taking questions at this time. I am cooperating fully with federal investigators regarding the financial allegations. I maintain my innocence regarding those charges, but I accept responsibility for my command decisions." He stepped away from the podium. The feed cut back to the studio. The anchor was already spinning analysis. Hale's tactical retreat, political calculations, damage control. Emily looked at Mendoza. "What does this mean?" "It means he's trying to control the narrative. Withdraw with grace. Take responsibility for FOB Griffin. Fight the financial charges from a position of dignified retirement." "He's admitting he left me." "No, he's admitting he made a difficult decision that he regrets. There's a difference." Mendoza closed the laptop. "But it also means his political career is over. Whatever he planned to do with that Pentagon appointment, it's not happening now." Emily should have felt victorious, should have felt vindicated. Instead, she just felt empty. "So I destroyed my life to stop something that stopped itself?" "You gave people the information they needed to make that stop happen. That's not nothing. Tell that to the federal prosecutor who's about to charge me with espionage." Mendoza sat across from her. "About that, the DOJ is considering a deal. Plead guilty to unauthorized disclosure, not espionage. Reduce sentence, possibly time served plus probation if you cooperate fully." "Cooperate how?" "Testify about your source. Give up whoever provided you that classified file." Emily shook her head. "No, I told you, I won't burn my source. Even if it means 10 years in federal prison? Even if it means 20. Emily met her eyes. "I broke the law. I accept the consequences, but I'm not dragging someone else down with me." Mendoza studied her for a long moment. "You know, when this started, I thought you were just another angry veteran with an axe to grind. But you're not. You're someone who actually believes in something." "Yeah, well," Emily's laugh was bitter. "Look where that got me. It got Hale to withdraw. It exposed a criminal network. It gave other whistleblowers courage to come forward." Mendoza stood. "That's not nothing, Emily. That's everything." They transported Emily back to the hearing room. But something had changed. The senators looked different, less hostile, more thoughtful. The staffers watched her with something like respect. Hargrove gavelled the session to order. "In light of Colonel Hale's withdrawal and public statement, this committee will be expanding its investigation into his activities at Aegis Solutions. We will also be reviewing the circumstances surrounding the FOB Griffin evacuation with fresh scrutiny." She looked at Emily. "Corporal Carter, your actions, while legally problematic, have exposed serious wrongdoing. The committee recognizes that you attempted to work through proper channels before resorting to unauthorized disclosure. Does that mean I'm not going to prison? Emily asked. That's not for this committee to decide. The Department of Justice will make charging decisions. However, I will be recommending leniency based on your cooperation and the significance of the information you provided. Senator Williams leaned forward. Corporal, one question. If you could do it all over again, knowing what it would cost you, would you still leak that file? Emily didn't hesitate. Yes, ma'am. Even though it destroyed your life? My life was already destroyed. The moment Hale left me in that compound, I stopped being the person I was. The person who believed the system worked, who trusted her commanders, who thought doing the right thing mattered. Emily's voice cracked. At least this way it meant something. Williams nodded slowly. Thank you for your service, Corporal, and for your courage. The hearing adjourned. Emily was led back to the holding cell, processed out, transferred to federal custody pending trial. The agents were professional, almost gentle. One of them, an older guy with Marine Corps tattoos, whispered as he loaded her into the transport van. Semper Fi, Corporal. You did the right thing. It was the first time anyone in uniform had said that to her in 5 years. 6 weeks later, Emily stood in a federal courtroom in Alexandria, Virginia. Orange jumpsuit traded for civilian clothes, borrowed from Rourke's daughter, too big in the shoulders but clean. Her public defender stood beside her, a young woman fresh out of law school who seemed perpetually overwhelmed. The judge was a black woman in her 60s, reading glasses perched on her nose. She reviewed the plea agreement without expression. Ms. Carter, you understand that by pleading guilty to unauthorized disclosure of classified material, you are facing a sentence of up to 5 years in federal prison. Yes, Your Honor. And you understand that the government has agreed to recommend a reduced sentence based on your cooperation and the significance of the disclosed information. Yes, Your Honor. How do you plead? Emily took a breath. Guilty, Your Honor. The judge made a note. Before I accept this plea, I want to hear from you directly. Why did you do it? Emily looked at the gallery. Rourke sat in the second row. Ortiz was there too, despite the risks. Hayes. 3 other Marines who testified. Even Mendoza had come. Your Honor, I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. I believed in something. Believed that we stood for honor, courage, commitment. That we didn't leave people behind. That the truth mattered. Emily's hands were steady. When I realized that wasn't always true, that sometimes the system protects the wrong people, I had a choice. Stay silent and let a criminal gain more power, or break the law to expose him. And you chose to break the law. Yes, ma'am, because I couldn't live with the alternative. The judge removed her glasses. Miss Carter, what you did was illegal. Make no mistake about that. But I've reviewed the classified file you disclosed. I've seen what Colonel Hale did, not just to you, but to others. The financial crimes, the illegal operations, the pattern of sacrificing lives for personal advancement. She paused. The law exists to protect us, but sometimes the law is used as a shield by those who would harm us. You found yourself in an impossible situation. Follow the law and allow evil to prosper, or break the law and face the consequences. Emily held her breath. You chose the harder path, the path that required sacrifice. And while I cannot condone illegal disclosure of classified material, I can recognize that you did so with pure motives and at great personal cost. The judge looked at the prosecutor. What is the government's sentencing recommendation? The prosecutor stood. Your Honor, given the defendant's cooperation, lack of prior criminal history, and the mitigating circumstances, the government recommends time served plus 3 years supervised probation. Time served. Emily had been in custody for 6 weeks. If the judge accepted, I'll go further, the judge said. Time served plus 2 years probation. Miss Carter, you will be released today, subject to monitoring conditions. You will not leave the state without permission. You will check in with a probation officer weekly, and you will not disclose any additional classified material under penalty of immediate incarceration. Emily's knees almost buckled. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. You still have a felony conviction. That will follow you for the rest of your life. But you'll have your freedom. Use it wisely. The judge stood. This court is adjourned. Emily walked out of the courthouse into late afternoon sun. Free. Released. The word felt foreign. Rourke was waiting on the steps. He didn't say anything, just pulled her into a hug. Behind him, Ortiz, Hayes, the others. They'd waited. All of them. You did it, Ortiz said, voice thick. You actually did it. Did what? Destroyed my life and got convicted of a felony? You stopped him. Hale's done. Aegis is under investigation. 3 other officers have been implicated. The whole network is unraveling. Hayes grinned. One medic took down a corrupt colonel and exposed a criminal conspiracy. That's not nothing, Corporal. Emily looked at them, these men who'd risked everything to stand with her. I couldn't have done it without you. Yeah, you could have, Rourke said quietly, but you didn't have to. That's the difference. They went to a diner, ordered too much food, talked too loud, laughed at jokes that weren't funny. For the first time in 5 years, Emily felt something like peace. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then decided, what did she have to lose now? Hello? Corporal Carter. A woman's voice, familiar. This is Sarah Voss. Emily stepped outside the diner. I didn't give you up. I know, thank you. A pause. I wanted you to know what you did mattered, not just stopping Hale. You showed people that it's possible to fight the system and survive. Barely. But you survived. You told the truth and you're still standing. That's more than most people can say. Voss's voice softened. I'm sorry for putting you in that position. Sorry for making you choose. You didn't make me choose. You gave me the tools. I decided what to do with them. Still, you paid a heavy price. Emily looked through the diner window at Rourke and the others, laughing over coffee. Yeah, but I got something back too. What's that? I don't know. Self-respect, maybe. The knowledge that when it mattered, I didn't back down. Emily closed her eyes. My father used to say the hardest thing about being a Marine wasn't the combat. It was living with the decisions you made in combat, whether you could look yourself in the mirror afterward. And can you? Emily thought about Haditha, thought about the drone footage, the leaked file, the 6 weeks in custody, thought about Hale's face when he'd withdrawn his nomination. Yeah, she said, I can. 3 months later, Emily was working at a VA clinic in Phoenix. Not as a medic, her felony conviction barred her from medical certification, but as a peer counselor, helping other veterans navigate the system, filling out forms, connecting them with resources. It wasn't what she'd planned, but it was something. She was filing paperwork when someone knocked on her office door. She looked up and froze. Marcus Hale stood in the doorway. He looked older, thinner. The confidence that had armored him was gone, replaced by something that might have been regret. May I come in? He asked quietly. Emily's first instinct was to call security. Her second was to hear what he had to say. She went with the second. 5 minutes, she said. Hale sat across from her, hands folded in his lap. I wanted to apologize, face to face, not through lawyers or press statements. Okay? What I did to you at FOB Griffin was unforgivable. I made a tactical decision that prioritized mission success over your life. I told myself it was necessary, that it was the right call under the circumstances. He looked at her. I was wrong. Emily said nothing. I've spent my career making those calculations, weighing lives against objectives, treating people as assets to be managed, not human beings with families and futures. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that every number on my casualty list was someone like you, someone who trusted me. Is this supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to let you know that you were right. About me, about the system, about all of it. Hale's voice cracked. I destroyed my career, my reputation, my marriage ended. Aegis fired me. The financial investigations will probably put me in prison. And you know what the worst part is? What? I deserve it. All of it. Because I did exactly what you said. I sacrificed people to advance myself. And I did it so smoothly, so easily, that I stopped seeing it as wrong. Emily leaned back. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only person who stood up to me. The only person who refused to accept that what I did was just the cost of war. You made me see myself clearly, and I hated what I saw. Hale stood. I can't undo what I did to you, can't give you back your career or your peace of mind, but I wanted you to know you were brave, braver than I ever was. He moved to the door, paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Then he was gone. Emily sat alone in her office, processing. Part of her wanted to feel vindicated, wanted to feel like his apology meant something, but mostly she just felt tired. The war was over. She'd won, in a way, but winning looked a lot like losing. That evening, Emily drove out to the desert, found a spot miles from anywhere, no lights, no noise, just sand and stars and silence. She thought about Haditha, thought about the moment she'd heard the rotors fading, realized the bird wasn't coming back, thought about the 3 hours she'd spent waiting, wondering if she'd die in that compound. She thought about Hale's apology. Meant? Probably. Enough? Not even close. But maybe that was the point. Maybe there was no enough when it came to something like this. No amount of justice or revenge or closure that could make it right. You just carried it, like her father had carried Fallujah, like every veteran carried their war. Her phone rang. Rourke. You okay? He asked. Hayes said Hale showed up at your office. I'm okay, he apologized. You believe him? Does it matter? Rourke was quiet for a moment. Your father would be proud of you. I hope you know that. Would he? I broke the law, destroyed my career, became exactly the kind of Marine he hated, someone who put personal vendetta above duty. No, you became the kind of Marine who stood up when everyone else stayed silent, who fought for the truth even when it cost everything. That's not vendetta, that's honor. Emily looked up at the stars. I don't feel honorable. I feel angry and tired and broken. Good, that means you're still human. Rourke paused. You coming back to the city? Yeah, just needed some air. Drive safe. She hung up, sat for a few more minutes, letting the desert work its quiet magic. Then she drove back, headlights cutting through the darkness. 6 months after the trial, Emily received a letter. Official DOD letterhead. She opened it with shaking hands, expecting more legal trouble. Instead, it was from the Secretary of the Navy. Dear Ms. Carter, after careful review of the circumstances surrounding your medical discharge and subsequent actions, the Department of the Navy has determined that your discharge characterization should be upgraded from general, under honorable conditions, to honorable. Additionally, this office has recommended you for the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for your actions at FOB Griffin on October 14, 2019, wherein you remained with a critically wounded Marine under fire, providing life-saving medical care at great personal risk. While we cannot undo the injustices you suffered, we can acknowledge your service and sacrifice. You are, and always have been, a Marine of the highest caliber. Semper Fidelis. Emily read it 3 times. Then she called Rourke, hands still shaking. They upgraded my discharge, she said, and they're giving me a medal. About damn time. She could hear the smile in his voice. When's the ceremony? I don't know. I don't even know if I want to go. You should go. Not for them, for you. The ceremony was held at Marine Corps Base Quantico 8 weeks later. Small, quiet, just family and close friends. Emily wore a borrowed dress uniform. Her old one didn't fit anymore. Weight loss from stress and prison food. The commandant of the Marine Corps pinned the medal on her chest, shook her hand, said words about honor and sacrifice that mostly went over her head because she was trying not to cry. Afterward, there was a reception. Coffee and stale cookies in a base conference room. Emily stood in the corner, feeling out of place in her uniform. Ortiz found her there. "You okay?" "I don't know. This feels surreal." "You earned it. That medal, the honorable discharge, all of it." "Did I?" "Because it feels like compensation, like they're trying to make up for leaving me behind by giving me a piece of metal." Ortiz smiled sadly. "Maybe, but it's also the Corps admitting it was wrong. That's rare." Emily looked down at the medal on her chest. Navy and Marine Corps medal. Fourth highest honor. For valor not involving combat with an enemy. "I didn't do anything special," she said. "I just stayed with my patient. That's the job." "Yeah, but you did the job when your command failed you. When the system failed you. When everything fell apart, you held on." Ortiz put a hand on her shoulder. "That's not nothing, Emily. That's everything." She looked around the room. Rourke talking to Hayes, her public defender chatting with Mendoza, a reporter from the Marine Corps Times taking notes. All these people who'd stood with her when she had nothing. "You know what the crazy thing is?" Emily said. "A year ago, I would have done anything to get this. An honorable discharge, recognition, the Corps saying I mattered. And now that I have it, it doesn't fix anything. I'm still angry, still broken, still wake up at 0400 hearing rotors that aren't there. But you're still standing. Barely. That's all any of us can do. Stand up, fall down, stand up again." Ortiz smiled. "Besides, you've got us, your platoon. We're not going anywhere." Emily looked at him, at all of them. Her new unit, not the one she'd been assigned, but the one she'd chosen. Built from Marines who'd refused to abandon each other, who'd stood up when it mattered. "Semper Fi," she said quietly. "Semper Fi, Corporal." Later, after the ceremony ended and the coffee ran out and everyone started to leave, Emily stood alone in the parking lot. The sun was setting over Quantico, turning the sky orange and purple. Beautiful, painful, like everything in her life now. Her phone buzzed. Text message from an unknown number. Just 4 words. "We see you, Marine." Emily stared at it. Could be Voss. Could be someone else from the network of whistleblowers and truth-tellers who'd watched her fight and decided they weren't alone. Could be a threat. Could be support. She'd probably never know. She deleted the message, got in her car, drove back to Phoenix, back to her job at the VA, back to her small apartment and her routine of therapy sessions and probation check-ins. Normal life, or what passed for it now. A year ago, she'd wanted revenge, wanted to hurt Hale the way he'd hurt her, destroy him, make him suffer. And she had. His career was over, his reputation destroyed. He'd probably spend years in federal prison for the financial crimes. Everything he'd built, gone. But Emily didn't feel victorious, didn't feel satisfied. She just felt tired. And maybe that was okay. Maybe that was what healing looked like. Not triumph, not vindication, just the slow acceptance that some wounds never fully close. She pulled into her apartment complex, killed the engine, sat in the dark for a moment, the metal still pinned to her chest. Then she got out, walked inside, made coffee, sat at her card table, the same one she'd had in LA, the same one where this whole thing started. Tomorrow she'd go to work, help veterans navigate the bureaucracy that had nearly destroyed her, do the small, unglamorous work of making the system slightly less broken. It wasn't glorious. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even really justice. But it was something, and after everything she'd lost, something was enough. Emily took off the medal, set it on the table, looked at it for a long time. Then she turned off the lights and went to bed. The war was over. She'd survived. That would have to be enough.